We now live in a world full of any information that we need available at any moment in time. This is the conundrum of learning. Because we have access to everything, we're in fact learning everything and going nowhere.
Good morning. I'm Michael Kovnat, and this is the Next Big Idea Daily, where we unpack the best new nonfiction, one big idea at a time. So let's face it, we live in a golden age of learning. Want to learn Mandarin? There's an app for that. Want to write some code? There's an AI chatbot that can help. Want to start a business, write a novel, fix your posture, or master the ukulele? You could start today. And that's the problem, because when you can learn anything, the temptation is to try learning everything. Entrepreneur and podcaster Pat Flynn says that's the fast track to burnout and stagnation. In his new book, Lean Learning, he lays out a better way, a system for learning less but doing more. It's about focus, timing, and applying what you need right now, not someday. Here's Pat to share his big ideas.
Hi, I'm Pat Flynn, entrepreneur, podcaster, and author of several books, including my latest, Lean Learning: How to Achieve More by Learning Less. I'm founder of Smart Passive Income, where I've helped millions of people build their businesses and learn new skills more effectively. I'm going to share with you 5 key insights from my book that will transform how you approach learning anything new. These principles have helped me master everything from public speaking to YouTube, podcasting, and even inventing physical products, all while avoiding the overwhelm that stops most people in their tracks. The first insight is about shifting from just-in-case learning to just-in-time learning. Most of us are information hoarders. We save articles we'll read later, buy courses we'll eventually get to, and bookmark resources just in case we need them someday. But this approach actually slows us down. When I was building my first business, I spent months researching every aspect of online marketing before taking any action. I had folders full of PDFs, bookmarks organized into categories, and a head full of conflicting advice. The result? Paralysis by analysis. Everything changed when my business coach told me to focus only on the information I needed for my next immediate step. If I was writing a study guide, I only learned about writing and formatting. When it was time to create a sales page, then I learned about copywriting. This just-in-time approach meant I could apply what I learned immediately, which made it stick better and give me faster results. The key is to resist the urge to learn everything up front. Instead, identify your next action, gather only the information needed for that step, then implement immediately. This creates a powerful cycle of learning and doing that accelerates your progress dramatically. You have to trust the process and understand that by the time you need those resources for the next step, they are definitely going to be available, and they're probably going to be better than when you first thought about consuming them. We now live in a world full of any information that we need available at any moment in time. This is the conundrum of learning. Because we have access to everything, we're in fact learning everything and going nowhere. The second insight is about micromastery, the practice of breaking complex skills into their smallest components and focusing on one at a time. Most people try to improve everything simultaneously and end up improving nothing. It's like trying to juggle while learning to ride a unicycle. You're setting yourself up for failure. Or imagine the band conductor who wants his band to get better only by having them play the same song over and over and over again without breaking down harder components or certain sections or instruments to improve those parts. I learned this lesson when I was struggling with my email marketing. Instead of trying to optimize my entire email funnel at once, I focused exclusively on subject lines for 30 days. I studied only subject line psychology, tested different approaches, and tracked open rates obsessively. The result was a 68% improvement in open rates in just 1 month. Here's how micromastery works. Take email marketing, for example. It's not one skill, it's actually several micro skills. List building, subject lines, email content, calls to actions, and deliverability. Instead of trying to master all 5, you pick one, say subject lines, and focus exclusively on that for a defined period. This approach works because it allows you to see dramatic improvements quickly, which builds momentum. When you improve one component significantly, it creates a ripple effect throughout the entire system. More people opening your emails means more people reading your content and clicking your links, even if you haven't changed anything else. Another example is a friend of mine who is an ultra marathon runner, who, in order to master his ultra marathon running, would take weeks at a time to focus on one micro component of running ultra marathons. For example, he spent a few weeks solely focused on how his heel hit the ground in his stride. He hired a camera crew to slow motion record his foot impact and how he bounced off into the next stride. So much so that he was able to improve an efficiency that was only a few percentage improvements. However, across 50 miles, you can understand just how dramatic this improvement can be. No matter what it is that you are trying to learn, whether it is how to run more efficiently, to play an instrument, to learn a new language, or better optimize your business, going small can definitely mean going big. The third insight is about voluntary force functions, deliberately putting yourself in situations that force rapid learning and growth. We've all experienced moments where external pressures force us to learn quickly, cramming for an exam, preparing for a presentation, or handling an emergency at work. But what if we could create that same productive pressure intentionally? In 2011, I was terrified of public speaking, but I knew it would help my business. Instead of taking a class or practicing in private, I said yes when a friend asked me to deliver the closing keynote at his conference with only 30 days to prepare. This voluntary force function forced me to learn public speaking faster than years of casual practice ever could. The key elements of an effective voluntary force function are a leap of faith moment where you commit, a time-locked deadline you can't move, stakes high enough to motivate but not paralyze you, a meaningful challenge aligned with your goals, and clear rewards on the other side. You can create these for yourself by signing up for competitions, scheduling presentations, or making public commitments. The pressure isn't punishment, rather it's a catalyst that helps you access capabilities you didn't know you had, or ones that you wouldn't use without that additional pressure. The fourth insight is knowing when to keep going and when to change direction, what I call the persist or pivot framework. One of the hardest decisions in any learning journey is whether to push through difficulties or try a different approach. I've seen people waste years persisting with the wrong strategy, and others give up before their breakthrough. The framework involves regular self-assessment using what I call the 3 Ps: progress, passion, and purpose. Progress asks, am I moving forward even if slowly? Passion asks, does this still energize me or has it become a constant drain? Purpose asks, is this still aligned with my values and long-term vision? I use this framework quarterly. If all 3 Ps are positive, I persist with confidence. If one is negative, I investigate and make adjustments. If 2 or more are consistently negative, it's often time to pivot. For example, when I was building my architecture exam website back in 2008, there were moments when progress felt slow and I questioned everything. It was all so new to me. But my passion remained high, and the purpose, helping people pass a difficult exam, was deeply meaningful. So I persisted, and it became a $1 million business. The key is honest self-reflection combined with input from trusted advisors who can see what you might miss when you're too close to the situation. The fifth and final insight is that teaching others accelerates your own learning more than any other strategy. Most people think teaching comes after mastery, but I've discovered that teaching is actually a part of the mastery process itself. When you explain concepts to others, you're forced to organize your thoughts, identify gaps in your understanding, and find new ways to communicate complex ideas. This became extremely clear when I started my podcast. Initially, I thought I needed to be an expert before interviewing other experts, but I discovered that asking good questions and synthesizing insights for my audience actually deepened my own understanding of business and entrepreneurship. You don't need to wait until you're an expert to start teaching. You can teach what you're learning as you learn it. Start a blog documenting your journey. Create videos explaining concepts you're studying, or simply help a friend who's a few steps behind you. The act of teaching forces you to think more clearly about what you're learning. When someone asks you a question you can't answer, it highlights exactly what you need to study next too. And when you can explain something simply, you know you truly understand it. Teaching also creates accountability. When others are counting on you to share insights, you're more likely to stay committed to your learning journey. I recently had a friend who was learning how to play the ukulele in Hawaii from some amazing professional ukulele players. One day, only a few weeks after starting lessons, the ukulele instructor asked my friend to teach the ukulele to his 8-year-old son. My friend was a little surprised and bewildered at the thought because he had only just started. He only knew a few chords and was not even close to being expert level yet, enough to teach, at least he thought so in his mind. But the master had known that by teaching his son, he would then internalize the chords and be able to reproduce them at his own will after synthesizing them for the purpose of his son. And it didn't take long for him to understand that this is exactly what was happening. My friend was able to teach his son, share the chords in a way that was memorable for both him and his son. The teaching became synthesis. What an incredible thing for the master ukulele players to ask the student to do.
Thank you, Pat. All right, everyone, you can get a copy of Lean Learning at your favorite bookstore or using the link in the episode notes. I'm Michael Kovnat. Hope to see you tomorrow.